Welcome to Global Village, and thank you for watching Global Village. We have two great people today. We have our great MP, Lavar Payne, and we have Lisa Tiffin. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Lavar, could you please tell us a little bit about the accomplishment of the federal government in 2012?
I'm not sure where to start with that one, but I believe that there's been a number of accomplishments, and I think for us, one of the most important is certainly the economy, and that is creating jobs and prosperity. So from that standpoint, we've put through a couple of budgets. We've created over 900,000 jobs since July of 2009. So I think that that's a really important aspect. There's a number of other important things that have happened with First Nations, with immigration, and certainly our anti-crime legislation. So there's a number of those things that I could talk about for quite some time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lavar. Lisa, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a city staff member for the City of Brooks. I've been with the municipality for almost 5 years now, so I've worked out some of the kinks that you get when you're typically a rookie in government. So now I'm in a position called the Manager of Shared Services, and I work with a portfolio of internal departments, which includes things like sustainability, information technology, communications, municipal enforcement, inclusion, those sort of things that work within the municipality and within the organization to provide services to residents.
Oh, thank you very much. Mr. Lavar, the next election, the talk is maybe the electoral area will be redesigned again. Brooks might not be part of your area. How that is coming up?
Well, I was actually a bit surprised, obviously, by the Commission's report and what they called for the redistribution of the riding. Actually, I was very disappointed, actually. In fact, the way the process, and I don't think they actually followed sort of the guidelines, which I believe they should have. So the Commission actually gave that information early to the House of Commons, and so basically the day we rose, that was tabled at the House, and we had 30 days in which to file an objection. So I did that, and I've got input from a number of mayors, reeves, as well as MLAs, and certainly from the Chambers of Commerce, suggesting that they need to relook at this thing, and that was part of my objection. I sort of laid out what I thought the riding should be like, which would, in my view, should include Brooks, should include the County of Newell, should include the Cypress County and the County of 40 Mile, as well as north to the Red Deer River. They actually excluded Empress, which really the people there do all of their shopping and community things here in the city of Medicine Hat. So I'm not sure how they arrived at that. I don't believe the Commission actually followed the process that they should have.
Did they have any consultation with the residents in those areas, or they just make the recommendation based on other issues? Well,
there's certainly some of the other issues that they did have, but there were presentations by people from our riding to the Commission. One of the things that happened, and it's certainly in their report, that they received a petition for over 1,100 signatures to include what they call the Mormon Trail. And so that should, they wanted to include not only Sterling, Raymond, but McGrath and Cardston in that process. And so for whatever reason, the Commission decided that's what they would do. And then they had the riding go from north of Medicine Hat all the way around to Waterton, which is very difficult to service for an MP. So is this the final recommendation, or they still have process to follow before the election? Well, the process says I filed an objection, and when I get back to Ottawa, I will be talking with the Commission there to see what the next step will be, but I believe I will have a hearing, and there may be other aspects of the process to change their mind and change the boundaries.
We hope so because we are a bit honored to have you.
Thank you.
Lisa, some of our residents in Brooks complain about the peace officers' tickets or the traffic cameras. Usually, what would they do when they receive a traffic camera on the streets? Would they come to the city? What the process look like?
In early 2012, the city implemented a new photo radar program, and it was very much criticized at the time because people didn't see that it would be a direct impact on safety on the streets or speed. Essentially, people saw it as more of just being what they were coining as a cash grab, essentially. So the program started in January and we've now done a complete year of it, and the program has managed to levy a significant amount of funds and has also managed to reduce some of the motor vehicle collisions that are within the community. So in 2012 alone, we saw a 7% drop in collisions within the community, which is substantial. Part of what our RCMP staff sergeant believes is happening is that people are just thinking a little bit more about how they drive. They're talking about speeds, they're talking about community safety and safety on the streets, and that is being seen in the statistics through the drop of collisions. That doesn't mean people aren't still upset about it. Nobody likes to get tickets, whether it's for parking or speeding. So when people do have an issue with the ticket, or if they feel that it's unjust, then their option is to speak with the ticket provider. The service that we've contracted to it is called Independent Traffic Services, or ITS. So they can speak with ITS to get more information and more details on the ticket. And if they still believe that the ticket's unjust, then it, like any other provincial ticket, goes through the justice system, and you would have an appointment, a court date essentially, to speak your case before a judge. So we have gotten several phone calls with people asking questions. The city itself isn't the one issuing the tickets, it's ITS, the service that we've hired. And if people do want to argue their ticket or take it up through the justice system, then that's their right to do so, and they can have a court date for sure.
Oh, thanks. I have seen two people that told me they receive each of them 4 tickets, and I told them maybe you guys need to slow down. So they were a little bit confused, and they were a little bit disappointed, and the fact because you have to pay 4 tickets, which I don't know how much the total of the 4 tickets might be, but they were not amused, and I told them maybe follow the procedure what the ticket is all about, and maybe you need to slow down. That is one of the reasons that you have the photo radar in our area. The Mr. Labar, the investment side of Canada being a great nation to invest, what are we doing about attracting foreign investors, such as the one that bought the Calgary, I believe, the Chinese company? How are we attracting the right investors?
Well, I think part of our government strategy is certainly to reduce taxes on corporate as well as individuals, citizens, small business. Small business certainly drives the economy. And that's part of that process. As reduced taxes, we become more competitive in the world, and foreign investment looks at Canada. They look at our government, they see how stable Canada is, and so there's an opportunity for them to invest here. And I know there's been a lot of talk about the Nexen deal, and one of the interesting things is the Foreign Investment Protection Act that was signed with China. That really is an important piece of documentation that has been signed by China and Canada. That allows for Canadian companies to invest in China and have the same legal rights as companies who come here and invest in Canada would have. So it's a reciprocal agreement that allows for better protection for Canadian investors in China. So that was an important aspect. In terms of the details on Nexen, I don't have all the details on that. However, certainly after a long discussion and review, certainly it was felt that the deal for China to buy Nexen was approved. And the Prime Minister also indicated that there are going to be some issues around state-owned companies owning up resources in Canada. So I think you've seen probably the last of the state-owned organizations buying Canadian companies, particularly in the resource industry.
Okay. But still, companies that are not owned by the state, they are able to invest on privately owned, not state-owned.
That's correct. You know, any company, particularly, you know, there's a lot of public companies out there who invest through the stock market, and they will have opportunity to invest in Canada, and we've seen that. And another one of those examples is JBS at XL Foods, who is potentially going to buy that, and certainly that I believe is extremely good for Canada, extremely good for Brooks and the residents, and certainly the employees. I think that's an important investment, and hopefully that'll be finalized without any issues.
Yeah, they did, Mr. MB, and they are the owners now, and I think things are going smooth.
Excellent.
And we thank that to our government. Lisa, the issue of diversity in our area is a touchy one, as you very know. And Brooks is seen as a United Nations in Alberta, whereby other places maybe can come and look at the model of Brooks and County of Newell. But still there's room for improvement. While you have the mainstream complaining about newcomers or new Canadians feel they are entitled to something, and we have never been entitled in our great fathers when they come. That's a very tough one. So how you can reconcile, you think, how can we reconcile those two different ideas?
It's tough, and Brooks is in a very unique situation. They're a very special community in the numbers of cultural diversity and the statistics behind it. So it's essentially something that you don't see in very many different provinces. You don't see very often. So essentially we're on our own. It's difficult to share best practices with somebody, with other communities that are dealing with the same thing, because very few other communities are dealing with the same thing. One thing that we have been trying to do, we as the municipality and staff people, and along with our nonprofit sector and our volunteers in the community, is to just try and create situations where a Canadian-born, long-time resident comes into contact with somebody who's an immigrant and vice versa. Because we always find that the more people get to know each other and get to know people's opinions and their viewpoint, the better the chances of them understanding the other person's viewpoint is going to be. So the more people come into contact with one another, the better chances are that they're going to be able to, see the world from their eyes and see their perspective. So we're trying our best to host as many events as we can, having them free at different times of the day, different times of the week, so that people who work different shifts at the plant or different shifts wherever their job might be, or if they're in school, can still attend. Trying to keep it as often as possible free for people so that they can come and not feel the pressure of financial issues, that sort of thing. And we've had pretty good response to some of that. Like our Canada Day celebrations are amazing. We get a great turnout for it. We've held some cultural activities and things in the past year. We have really powerful nonprofit groups in the community, like the Newell Regional Expo Board, that's working towards, creating this inclusion and celebrating the benefits of diversity and trying to break down these past stereotypes that have existed, that sort of thing. So what we're trying to do is just a lot of very small, very simple ideas that would then translate into some very big, important changes. So.
And you also train Jeff, who's doing a great job.
Yeah, we have a staff person on our city staff that is devoted to working on welcoming and inclusive programs. So whether that be diversity training for all city staff, so we have 100 and something people that work in the community front lines, like at the same level as the people who vote for our council. So we need to make sure that they understand the services that are available to them and they are able to access those services. So that's one big thing, is helping to train our staff to be, diversity friendly and to be inclusive, that sort of thing. So.
No, that is great. The more we help narrow the gap between the mainstream and newcomers for the benefit of the common all residents, the residents of County of New York Brooks will benefit, Alberta will benefit, and in general, the Canadian economy will benefit out of that understanding, because there is some misunderstanding between the two, and that is people have the right to be educated. We have the right to inform them. Well-informed citizen is always makes a good decision.
Yeah, and it has to happen from both sides as well. Like the immigrants have to make the same amount of effort as Canadian-born people as well, and to have the municipality or to have nonprofit groups in there as kind of a facilitator and setting up these situations where the two can interact, that we're happy to do so.
Yeah, but also one thing that we find through our research is if we also have to be practical, we have to speak from the truth, meaning that also the immigrant or new Canadian have to learn the culture, the communication, without dancing on the circles because it's politically incorrect. The more you enforce that idea, the more people will take it, because we come here, so we have to learn the language, we have to learn the culture of the people that you're coming to. And that will benefit not only the newcomers, will also benefit the Canadians mainstream. Nobody's taking away from my culture, because I have my culture I was born to. But I have to know the culture of Lavar, the culture of Lisa, the culture of the people you're coming to. Just common sense. If you go to Saudi Arabia, you have to know their culture. One of their culture is you don't drink. If you drink alcohol, you'll be arrested. So you can't say when you've been arrested, oh, well, no one told me, because it's your obligation to learn before you come to Saudi Arabia that they don't accept alcohol. So those are the things that people have to know, that you're coming to a place, it's your obligation to learn, and that is politically correct, if I'm not mistaken.
I absolutely agree with you.
Thanks, Mr. Lavar. Lavar, deficit is extremely important, and because we don't want the next generation to pay for the expense that occurred this generation. How can we reduce the deficit at the same time continue this growth and development for all Canadians in our nation, so we can compete other nations?
Well, it's a very difficult time, obviously, because of the world global situation, and we know that in Europe things are very difficult. The U.S., of course, has been really slow in recovery, and we're an exporting nation. So what we're trying to export to other countries, maybe they're not buying quite as much, and our dollar is a little stronger, so it makes it a little more difficult. However, what we've been trying to do as a government, certainly we did a number of huge investments in terms of infrastructure during the really difficult times, and we've now actually started reducing the deficit amount, and we're continuing to try to expand our markets. We've got 9 free trade agreements, and we're looking at something like another 50 around the world, and that will open up markets and allow more Canadian exports to happen, and obviously create more jobs. And creating the jobs in turn really expands the economy. It brings more taxpayers in, so doing that whole process that we're doing actually allows us to reduce the deficit, because we'll have more tax dollars to come in to reduce that. And so there's a number of things. I'm not an economist, but the Prime Minister is, and certainly our Finance Minister is well aware, and we've got some really excellent people in that area who are working extremely hard to eliminate the deficit. And they say in the medium term, which is 2014 to 2016, we should be back in balance again.
That's great to hear. That brings me to the question of XL pipeline, which has been approved by the governor of Nebraska state for the pipeline to go through the state of Nebraska. Are we closer today than before?
Well, certainly I think with the governor's approval and certainly the change, what they've proposed and where the pipeline is actually going to go is a really positive step. It still needs to be decided by the U.S. government as to whether in fact that will go ahead. I think that that's an important aspect, not only for Canada, but for the U.S. in terms of creating jobs. Those pipelines will create all kinds of jobs, and of course downstream as well when the oil becomes processed into gasoline and other products. So it's an important aspect, and this is for the long term, because those jobs will continue on. And certainly building the pipeline will create thousands and thousands of jobs, both in Canada as well as the U.S. So we're certainly hopeful that in the end that the President will approve that pipeline. I'm not sure exactly all of the technicalities that they'll have to go through, but it's an important aspect not only for Canada, partly because our oil is landlocked and we're getting a far reduced price, what we should be getting rather than the world price. So it's important that we sort of unlock that aspect and to be able to ship that oil south. And also we're looking, of course, at the Gateway project as well to ship oil to the coast and sell it on world market. It certainly would be very beneficial to Canada and certainly all the economies right across the country.
So that is the one through BC.
That's correct, Northern Gateway.
Oh, okay. So the idea is to have both then.
Yes. Yeah, and they're also looking at adding a new section going east. So in fact, that they can ship oil east and eliminate some of the oil that there is actually imported. I think that does also make a lot of sense for Canadians.
So east meaning Ontario.
Austin,
Quebec, that
Ontario,
area.
yeah, that's correct.
Wow, that is a good news. And I think that is something tangible. And the good thing now is the election is behind us in the U.S.,
Right.
the election of Obama. So that will give him a leeway now.
Right. You know, and pipelines, there are thousands and thousands of miles of pipelines all across Canada and the U.S., and that is the safest way to transport. And particularly now with the new technologies that are available, they can check those by what they call a pig, and they can put that in the pipeline and it goes down and it can check the thickness of the walls and everything else. So it's the technology now is far superior to what it was 30 or 40 years ago.
Wow, that is good having those pipes, and that will create jobs both sides of the border.
Yes.
Lisa, the who you think is you might think, in your own opinion, 2012 person of the year globally, not necessarily in Brooks or County of New York or Medicine Hat. Maybe it could be someone in Ontario.
I find this question quite difficult just because I don't want to undermine the work that so many people are working very hard at doing, whether they be lobbyists or researchers or politicians or advocates for different causes, because I think there are a lot of really important things that we saw happen in 2012, and so I don't want to undermine the work of anybody, but I would choose, if forced to, I would suggest possibly Princess Kate, the Duchess of Cambridge. I think that amid constant surveillance and constant criticism, she holds an air of grace and professionalism and humility at the same time. So I think that she's a really positive role model, and I think that she's challenged with a number of different things, and she's doing a great job.
We could not agree more than the princess. I think she's doing a great job.
That's a great selection.
Okay, what about LeVar?
Well, I think about things a bit differently, and I guess if I were to name somebody globally, I think I would pick our finance minister, Minister Flaherty. He's been recognized around the world as the finance guy with the best record of job creation, and certainly what we have in terms of our economy here. Accolades from virtually all around the world. And I think that that's an important aspect, particularly from a government side of point of view. And so I would nominate Jim Flaherty.
Well, that's a good choice. We could not agree more, because I think the economics and that also will affect all Canadians, and especially when we had a recession in the US and Europe and other places globally, that Canada was not touched that bad as other places globally.
Canada has a lot to be proud of, I think,
Yes.
in terms of how we reacted to the global economic crisis and how our people have responded.
Have you ever thought, when you were young, have you ever thought having a dream to be part of the city of Brooks, or just by luck you end up in the West Brooks?
I think that it was a little bit by luck. My undergraduate degree was in communications and marketing, and as my education went on, I started to get more involved in community work and working within, urban planning and building communities and the social aspect of it. So just by chance, I ended up coming out west, and I've really kind of made a niche for myself here, and I really enjoy the work that I do now. So I hope to have a long future with it.
You are a true Albertan now.
Yeah, now I guess.
Okay, Mr. Labar, your final thought of 2013 to the viewers?
Well, 2013 will certainly continue to be challenging, I think, from an economic point of view. There's still a number of things that we need to do, and certainly one of the big issues out there right now, of course, is the First Nations. And I will actually be providing a lot of detail on what we've done for First Nations over the last number of years. And I mean, we spend approximately $10+ billion a year on First Nations, and whether it's for housing or whether it's for schools, education, and certainly there's been a number of things I think we've done to make some huge improvements for First Nations.
Thank you very much, Ms. Labar Payne, and thank you very much, Lisa, for coming to Global Village Show, and we're glad to have you. Labar, I think today is also our first anniversary. You were here last year when we opened the program, and here you are, our first anniversary, and we are very honored to have you, and we hope to see you near future.
Well, I appreciate that, Ahmed, and it's if I can congratulate you on your first anniversary. That I think is an important aspect of what you're doing here for the global community.
Thank you very much, sir, and hope to have you in the near future.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Ahmed?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
This is the end of Global Village for the day, and we thank you very much for joining us, and we hope you will join us next time. Until then, this is your host of the program, Ahmed Kassim. Have a great day, and God bless you all.